You're the favorite guest. And as we are now at the bewitching hour for this week's episode 33 of SIP, Shelter in Place by Cellar Angels, my name is Martin Cody, co-founder of Cellar Angels, and we are delighted you are here and wherever here is for you. We are coming to you live from Naples. Joy is in the gorgeous area of wine country in California, Green Valley, that we're going to show some very nice pictures of in a minute. But to start things off, I want to let everybody know about a book I read, which I think resonated with me, and it reminded me a little bit about joy. And the book was Blake McCoskey's Build or Start Something That Matters. And if anybody doesn't know who Blake is the individual that started Tom's Shoes. And so Blake started Tom's Shoes, an incredible philanthropic organization in 2000, or he wrote the book in 2011, started the company a little bit earlier where you buy one pair of shoes and they gift one pair of shoes to a child in a South American country and now all over the world. But in reading that book, he did talk about starting something that matters. And it was actually that same mission that we started in 2010 at Cellar Angels. We wanted to start something that matters. It was on the heels of the last great economic recession. And it is something that we took our pride into to figure out how can we help the small producer? How can we help connect wine lovers around the country to the great producers in Sonoma and Napa? And then how can we raise money for charity? So when I'm reading Blake's book, it's fascinating. By the way, it's a very easy read. I recommend it for entrepreneurs and people that like to be philanthropic. It reminded me of what Iron Horse is. Iron Horse is not just a winery, in my opinion. Iron Horse is a way of mind. It's a statement. It's an ideology. It is something that you can strive for. Is this Iron Horse worthy? Is a phrase that I often hear about. And I tell people, for too many decades, there were two words that described sparkling wine in California wine country, and it indeed was Iron Horse. So in 2014, as great wine people often do, an introduction was made, and I met this young lady that we're interviewing tonight. And my life has been better for it ever since. So I am thrilled to welcome and thrilled that you, our supporters of Cellar Angels, get a chance to sit down wherever you are and meet the one and only Joy Sterling of Iron Horse. Cheers, Joy.
Well, cheers to you. Thank you so much. What an incredible introduction. I'm very worried that everybody is going to be terribly disappointed. You can't believe anything Martin says, certainly not about me.
And that's all the time we have.
Unless it's bad. If it's bad, then it's probably really true. So cheers to you, Martin, and Denise behind the scenes, and the unbelievably great work that you do at Cellar Angels. My family and I are so thrilled of our association with you. And it's a pleasure to be with you and everybody joining us this evening. So cheers. Or we just keep cheersing and drinking, and then it'll go much better.
Yeah, that is a wonderful first world problem to have. First of all, Catherine Popkin, Debbie Long, Elizabeth Heffernan, Hans and Caitlin Greasy. The entire Greasy family has now been indoctrinated into Cellar Angels. Some are in the Illinois area, some are in Colorado. Janet Caldwell, very nice for you to join us. Tom Randall, hello, sir, right up the road in Orlando. I wanted to kind of step back a little bit, Joy. And first of all, everybody, this is Iron Horse behind me. And this was, as we like to say, it was one of the most difficult days at the office for Cellar Angels, because this was when Denise and I are ever in the Sonoma region, we try to come over to Green Valley and see the folks. You really don't have to twist our arm hard to have bubbles. And this is the place that we like to have it. And so you have oysters, you're sitting out looking at the vineyard, and it is one of those pinch yourself environments. And one of the things, Joy, that struck me from the environment aspect when I first pulled up in 2013 or 14 to shoot the video was you don't have an indoor tasting room. You have an outdoor tasting room. And it's covered and stuff like that. But
parts of it are.
Parts of it are. But I found that really inviting, and also optically, it let me know that these folks are all about the wine, and they aren't putting on a lot of pomp and circumstances with, fountains and teak walkways up and those sorts of things. It's rustic and elegant at the same time.
Well, thank you. There are days when my mother thinks we're just a little bit more rustic than she would really like, but it is. Our tasting room is, as you can see behind Martin, is literally a plank of wood that is sitting on old wine barrels. The view is exquisite. You're looking all the way across Sonoma County to Mount St. Helena. And the Oyster Girls, who are two sisters who own a traveling oyster bar, they come and shuck fresh oysters every Sunday from April through October. So last Sunday was our last Sunday oyster bubble day for the season, unfortunately. But that is really the look of Iron Horse. And this year it turned out to be so hilarious because I have always had marble bathroom envy. You know, I go to these other wineries and they're just so, as you say, so luxurious. And we're not. And we just feel that you can enjoy the highest quality in the most relaxed setting. But in COVID, who knew that this would be the ideal?
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Not a lot of revisions were required for social distancing.
No, we have plenty of room. We have cut the number of people in half.
Mm-hmm.
So we're only offering appointments every other hour. But it's made actually the experience that much more wonderful. It's got a very relaxed, clean, healthy. It's a good antidote to a lot of stress going on around us.
It is the perfect antidote for marble bathroom envy. It's a lesser known affliction, usually untreatable. Actually, bubbles are another perfect antidote for that. So, but it was one of the refreshing things because you can get a glass of sparkling or taste of flight, and then you can just walk around and you sit down on the bench here and you're just looking out at the vineyards, then you walk back up. It is very low pressure, but it is really cathartic in my opinion, and the staff is always great. On Facebook, I understand James Blanchard from Blanchard Family Wines was engaged at your location. So longtime Cellar Angels will remember Blanchard Family Wines because we featured them a ways back. So that's good. And I would imagine he's not the first person to get engaged there.
And hopefully not the last. This is a very romantic place. It is just romantic. From the moment you drive onto the property, it just looks and feels special. And there's just something in the air here that is beautiful. And I am convinced that the beauty of the place is part of our terroir. It's part of the taste of our wines. The grapes, no. The grapes, no.
The grapes, no.
They're in a beautiful place. They're not going to make yucky wine. It's just not happening.
Well, and while the backdrop that Joy has does in fact look like something you might see to a country club in Palm Springs, it is actually the entrance to Iron Horse. And I also like it. I mean, it's a gravel road. You enter, it's a farm. I mean, when your parents bought it in 1966? 76. Okay, yeah.
76. Yes, next year will be the 45th anniversary.
45 years. Okay, that's a testament right there. As I have told people all week, you need to tune in on Friday because Joy is wine royalty, and doing this for 45 years is proof, is a testament of that. So now the idea, this was not exactly wine country in 1976. And if you want to juxtapose what was happening in 1976, you had, oh boy, a lot of different things. You know, you had the Winter Olympics that were going on. You had a boycott of the Summer Olympics. You had the first Rocky movie was released actually in 1976. I learned that this week researching. And to go all the way back to the 76 Summer Olympics, Nadia Comaneci received the perfect score of 10 7 times. I mean, it's amazing how long ago that seems. And then that's when they bought the property. And this was not wine country region that it is today. What did they buy and why did they think this was going to produce great wine?
Well, it was a total, as my mother says, where angels feared to tread. This was clearly crazy. This was apple country. Even the UC Davis agricultural extension agents told them that they were out of their minds and they should just go east and grow Cabernet like everybody else. There were no vineyards this far west. The only other people growing grapes were the Duttons, and they came and welcomed my parents. the palm trees behind me, which now stand about 40 feet. I mean, that is the architecture of Iron Horse. And, but they were laughable the first year. The first spring, the daffodils were taller than the palm trees. They were little things, and there was no winery. There was 110 acres of distressed vineyard, and no frost protection. The house, the original house on the property, which is my mother's home, was built in 1876, and it was listing on a foundation of 19th century beer cans. The garden, which my father just magically created for 44 years, was one steep slope of wild blackberries. Their vision was astonishing, and the entire story of Iron Horse is all about their vision. And Rodney Strong had done the original planting at Iron Horse in 1970 and 71, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And when my parents in 76, February of 76, tasted a 1974 Pinot Noir made from this property, that's when they knew that this was it. And they bought the place in 2 weeks. They were head over heels. It was just love at first sight. And it was a confluence of experiences. Number one, we had lived in France in the late 60s and early 70s. And over time, my parents found that the wines that they loved were Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And then my mother, as a San Franciscan, knew this area because she spent her summers in the Russian River. I mean, the first time she wore lipstick was at a dance in Monterey. And so knowing the climate and knowing what they wanted and knowing that Pinot Noir wanted that climate, just an amazing fortuitous situation that came together.
Well, and I'm going to show some people actually your journey, and I think it was, and I don't want to be so presumptuous to know, but it seemed in doing the research this week that move to France really helped kind of plant a seed of some sort of joie de vivre, the whole essence of food, wine, people, lifestyle that really took hold of your parents. Is that a fair statement?
Of all of us. I mean, we were 4 of us, my parents, my brother, and me. I was 13 when we moved, and Lawrence was 10. And it was just, obviously changed our lives. I think that we would have done my parents would have done something agricultural, and I think I might have followed suit in that, because if you go back 2 generations, we were farming already in California. And so I think that part isn't that far of a stretch.
Right.
But I think that it being wine definitely had to do with living in France and developing our particular flavor preferences. You know, we like understated wines. We like elegant wines. We like Pinot Noir, and we clearly love bubbles.
Absolutely. And so I see some folks are asking for a little look at the property via Google Earth. So I actually this week tried to up our Google Earth games, and I created Joy a movie.
Cool.
So I would like everyone to sit back, have some popcorn, because popcorn, most people don't know, but popcorn is a fantastic accompaniment with bubbles, or vice versa. So you just mentioned Paris, or you mentioned France. I'm going to jump ahead and say Paris. And you can actually narrate, because you mentioned that the whole family, you were 13 when you went there. Lawrence was 10. How old were your parents?
Well, that's an interesting question. Oh, well, that's not so hard. If I was 13, so they were in their 30s. I know that they were in their 30s because while we were living there, my mother gave my father his 40th birthday party at Maxime's.
Wow.
High dinner party at Maxime's. So I grew up in France. That's my hometown. And
it's a good place to grow up.
Don't you think? Oh my gosh, it was just so incredible. And we traveled as a family through all the wine regions of France. And so it was just an unbelievable education in food and wine and
I read something about
tomato. And
well, it's interesting, and I don't know if this was true, but I read something about your time there, specifically your father. I mean, your parents' time there. You were 13. You were going to a school of an American school for bilingual students and that sort of thing. But on weekends, like you said, you would go visit wine regions and go exploring. And one of the tidbits I read was that you used to go to the south of France.
Yes, we spent our summers in the south of France in the hills behind Cannes. So there's Cannes. And so Valbonne, you can see up there at the top. Valbonne, so where we lived was about a mile from Valbonne, and Valbonne was where the hot discotheque was. And my dad was so wonderful to me that he would take me to the discotheque and dance with me so that I could go dancing. He wasn't going to let me go with anyone else, but he.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Brian Marcella has actually been to that discotheque. So Brian, we'll have to chat about that. But I also found fascinating that apparently Julia Childs lived in a village right next door.
And she was very near. I mean, this was and Picasso lived nearby. I mean, it was amazing. And Moulin de Mougins, when we first got to go there, I mean, it was not even a one-star restaurant, and so we watched that grow and evolve to be one of the great dining spots on the planet. There was a place called Belarus where Picasso did his pottery. I mean, it was just an unbelievable experience. And then you could go down to Cannes and go sailing on the Mediterranean.
Yeah, it's hard not to have that make an imprint on your life when you experience the richness of that culture, the explosion of tastes, both artistically, gastronomically, and also wine. So it's no doubt that actually had an influence. And then you leave that and you come back to the United States, and fast forward, you talk about a cool weather climate and you land in the Russian River, and this is not drawn to scale. So I did put some lines on here, I thought, in the movie. I'll see the lines aren't showing up. And then you decide on the Green Valley area.
Well, it wasn't Green Valley at the time.
That's a good point.
It wasn't even Russian River at the time. There was no AVA. It was Sonoma County. There it is.
So, and there is Iron Horse. And so you get a sense at this altitude of the topography of the hillsides. And it is something special because, you come up here, you pull down over here, you park, you walk up, and you're just tasting among the vines, looking out over the vineyards. And it's about as picturesque as you can imagine. And like I said, bubbles don't stink. And these bubbles especially are in a class by themselves. And why don't I tell everyone actually what we're drinking tonight at Cellar Angels. And then I want you to tell us how this all came about. We have the Harvest Moon 2016, and you have awesomely named wines, Gratitude, Wedding Cuvee. I saw someone earlier in the chat line said they have a Wedding Cuvee open right now, 2013 in New Hampshire, because it's a nice snowy evening. So tell me about the Harvest Moon, the origin of the naming, those sorts of things. What goes into that?
Well, first of all, clearly, we believe you cannot have too many cuvées. And we're at 19 and counting. And our winemakers know that, I could wake up and say, we need a new cuvée. And because when in doubt, I just think that's the thing to do. So we are such marketing geniuses that we have seasonal cuvées. So we have spring rosé, we have Summer's Cuvee, we have Harvest Moon, and then we have Winter's Cuvee. And each of these seasonal wines are total production 400 cases. That's it. When it's gone, it's gone. So let me say that we are completely sold out of Harvest Moon. I mean, maybe there's literally like a bottle here or a bottle there, but no, it's not even on our website anymore because we'd have to run around and find the bottle for you. So it makes me particularly happy for those of you who got some. And it's the perfect toasting wine for the Harvest Moon, which is in October. And it was, well, this month, of course, is interesting because it was October. I almost want to say October 1st. And then tomorrow is a full moon also on Halloween. It's a blue moon.
Right.
So we feel very strongly that you should be toasting with bubbles on every full moon. So
Well, and also Debbie Long, who is in the chat, has indicated that they were married in wine country 9 years ago, and after the ceremony, they had wedding cuvee.
Oh, thank you.
So, and someone also just purchased bottles of gratitude to give to the family at Thanksgiving. So, and I also noticed you talk about the Harvest Moon. There seems to be a lunar fondness emanating from the Iron Horse mystique.
Oh, we're lunatics. We are lunatics. There is no doubt about it. No, we are not. But no, and there, don't read anything into that. We're not into the phases of the moon for growing or no.
Just romance.
Just romance. Just, I tell you what, I can give you an excuse for every day of the week to open bubbles. I believe you should have 2 bottles of bubbly chilling in your refrigerator at all times, just in case something good happens. You don't want to be caught flat-footed. And even if you just want to give the impression of optimism, and it's like smiling. If you smile, fake it till you make it. If you smile, you'll feel better. And then it's the same if you have bubbles in your refrigerator. Every time you open the door, you see sparkling wine, it makes you smile. I mean, it's a lift. And then you grab it and open it.
It's all the selling I need. It gets awkward at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning, but there are worse things. Now, you didn't come into the business right away, and I have a question for the audience to see who did their research, because you actually left a very well-established career. So our first question this evening has absolutely no monetary value to it. Founded in 1976 by Audrey and Barry Sterling, Joy Sterling joined in 1986 after leaving a career in what? Biotech. Of course, California, you got to have biotech somewhere. Broadcast journalism. She was clerk for Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. So we're going to give this a little bit of time because I see a couple of people changing answers.
I'm not sure what my first choice would be.
Well, if you don't know, then I'm in serious trouble.
No, I don't. I know what the truth is, but I mean, just if I could do it over again.
All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, some late answer changing. So it looks like several people. I have to cut these polls short, Joy, because people cheat. They will go to Google while the clock is ticking down and get the answer and then come back and pretend they're all smart. So the results are biotech. Everything got a little bit of a vote, but broadcast journalism for ABC News is in fact the correct answer. And I mean, you did, correct me if I'm wrong, you were the executive producer of the Olympics or working in that capacity, and you were being interviewed by someone and the person said, you are absolutely going to be in my position in 10 years. And you went home and cried and said, that's the last thing I ever want to do.
That's correct.
And why was the career, why did you not want to do that?
This person was what I would describe as a middle level manager who worked in an office, and I had this vision of him holding onto his desk every day, hoping he still had a job. I mean, it just wasn't, it did not have meaning. To
Right.
go back to your introduction, it did not have meaning. When I started as a journalist, I had such a strong feeling about it, particularly getting the evening news on the air, because I would imagine my grandmother watching the news, and it was imperative that she get the right information. I mean, I thought there was a real purpose to doing it. And then as I guess I zigged when I should have zagged, I thought I should go into management. And then you get further removed from the part that you liked. And it just was a company job, a corporate job, a hierarchical situation. And so I just said, no, we can't do that. And so then I quit, and then I came home and literally waltzed in, just like you do on the night of Thanksgiving when all the dishes have been washed, and you walk into the kitchen and say, can I help? Everything's been done, but there you are, ready to lend a hand. And so that was me coming to Iron Horse.
Monica Simmons is a nurse for 15 years, and I know you make a difference too, because nurses have a very special place in my life. I'm married to one, my sister's one. So yes, absolutely. The nursing thing. And Joy, I think that's fantastic and tremendous insight by you at a young age to recognize, boy, if I don't get off this treadmill right now, I am going to be this person in 10 years, and that looks miserable.
It looked horrible to me. It looked just horrible. Not what I wanted at all. So yeah, and now amazingly, I have been here, what is that, 35 years? I mean, the math doesn't even compute, but but I'll tell you what, every day I pinch myself and I jump out of bed in the morning. I am so excited. And of course, everything that I do is wrapped up with everyone I love. So it is incredibly important to me on every level. And I have very high standards to live up to from my family. And I just think it's just so incredibly exciting. It's an honor. It's a privilege. It's fun.
And those standards you talk about are indeed high, and everything is estate fruit. So it's not as if you can just go buy a couple tons here from this producer. It's all your own fruit, and that's all you use, and you set new standards every year. Walk us through that philosophy and where that originated from. How do you maybe tweak it over the years? How do you try to live up to it every year? It's got to be an incredibly daunting challenge.
Well, the original vision was a classic estate, 30,000 case property. And that's it. And that's what we strive to be. Our production level doesn't always hit 30,000. Certainly not this year. We were a very short crop this year. But it is the foundation of our belief system that this vineyard is unique and capable of producing delicious flavors that no one else can replicate, period. And it's our job to bring out those flavors, heighten them in every way that we can, let them shine through in the wine. And the objective is to make wines that are just so delicious and irresistible that you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with an undeniable thirst for Iron Horse, and nothing else will do. And that's our marketing plan, pretty much.
Well, then that'll be my excuse at 3 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
As I'm sitting in front of you.
Now you'll understand, right?
That's right. Denise will understand. Well, and your cuvées have been served at some incredibly prestigious places and really at some very high level ceremonious events. And I think the National Geographic wine you have is a testament in and of itself to your philanthropy, to your early activism and giving back and helping people. Tell us about how, some of the state dinners at the White House. Where did those all come from? And there was a very special one with a former Soviet leader and our current, or our president. And you were at that, or the wine was at that. I don't know if you
The wine
were
was
at
at that. More importantly, the wine was at that. That is a great story. So we were honored that the Reagan administration chose Iron Horse for the Reagan-Gorbachev summit meetings in 1985. And that put Iron Horse on the map. And to put this in perspective, our first vintage of sparkling wine was 1980. The wine that was served in 85 was a 1982 Blanc de Blanc. I mean, this was so early in our history. And and it just changed our trajectory. And then every president since, so 6 consecutive presidential administrations have served Iron Horse at the White House. And the wine, we commemorated that by calling it Russian Cuvee. And I know, well, it has this meaning because it was the US-Russia summit meetings. We pertain to the town of Sebastopol. The Russian taste, so-called in the 19th century, the gurus, was to be a slightly sweeter wine. And the Russian Cuvee is the richest of our sparkling wines, although it is still technically brut level dry. And so for all these reasons, now, funnily enough, this is the wine that the White House has favored all these years because it is the richest, and they serve sparkling wine at the end of the meal for toasting, but they wouldn't serve Russian Cuvee. So we had to relabel it Russian River Cuvee. And you think, well, maybe we would just follow suit, but no, that would be off message because, of course, we are Green Valley. So
Right.
So it's just more labels for everybody.
Well, and there are some people enjoying quite a bit of your wine this evening. So I want to share a picture that someone sent in earlier. They are sharing and tasting the 14, 15, and 16. So I don't know if you have the encyclopedic tasting notes memorized from those vintages, but this is the Marcellas and the Wolves in the Chicago area. And
I love your style. So there's a couple of things in this picture I want to point out. First of all, look at the corks. So you can tell which is the older vintage just by looking at the corks. Obviously, I can't read the label. I mean, even if I put on my glasses, I wouldn't be able to. But from the cork, you can see that the thinness of the mushroom stem of the cork on the left. Oh, thank you. Well, see, I'm right. This is an unbelievable photograph, educational. Over time, that mushroom stem gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and you can see. So the younger wine, it's thicker, thank you. And this is kind of in the middle. And so that's what's happening to your wine. So number one, you've got that variation of how long each of these was aged on the cork. So that's when it's aged on the cork, the wines actually, I feel, just like still wines, they evolve, they become richer, they become weightier, they get different flavors. So number two, the other thing, and we'll ask our friends if they agree with this, those wines were not cookie cutter. I mean, there was no recipe that made the 2014 a particular taste, and then the 2015 would be stylistically just like it, because we don't do that. We don't have any recipes. We just strive to make the best wine of the vintage. Now, we think that there's a personality that goes with the wine, and that we're trying to express, but it can even be a different color. Some years it might be more of a rosé, some years it might be a Blanc de Blanc base wine. So, there's no guarantee with us.
No, and I think that's awesome. And I love the educational piece about the corks. And I think third and finally, you can see Brian's slipper in the upper left-hand corner that is should have been out of the shot.
I thought it was a powder puff.
It could have been a powder puff. But they'll hopefully they'll share some comments about which is their favorite and in the chat line, and then we can look at those a little bit later. But I like the aspect that you just said stylistically with regards to producing the best wine each year. You don't have a formula for that. So each year you're starting with theoretically a blank slate based upon what Mother Nature has done and what you were able to get from the vineyard. But you also have that benchmark that you always want to produce the most superior wine you possibly can. So that is the only part of the. Yep.
We want to go up. We're only as good as our last home run. And that is how we feel. And that is one of the reasons why I find being here so engaging and enduring is we're nowhere near done in terms of achieving what we think is possible to achieve here. And unlike other endeavors, let's like cooking, for example, I mean, you can keep making that omelet until you get it right. With wine, you get to do it once a year. And that's it.
Yeah, there's no do-overs, right? The do-over is the next year.
The next vintage, so but I think that's part of the excitement is, after each harvest, we're already talking about how do we take it up to the next level.
Well, and you've crisscrossed the country numbers of times and really the globe, pouring and meeting people. And how do you get it to be so good every single year without a formula?
We just work hard. Early to bed, early to rise, work like hell. That's it.
It's a good formula.
That's it. It's, first of all, being estate bottled means that we do all the farming. And yes, we are farmers. We are beholden to Mother Nature, but we control the crop size in the terms of, if it's too much and we want to make it better by reducing the crop size, we can make that investment. We're not relying on someone else to make that judgment for us. We're making those decisions of what is going to produce the best wines, of the best grapes to make the best wines of the vintage. And so some things are also just evolutionary. For example, in the vintage 2017, we're going to have our first single vineyard block sparkling wines.
Really?
So that's super fun. Now, I don't know when we're going to release that. In fact, we're going to have a production meeting on Tuesday to talk about it. The 17s, I'm in no rush to release them. We make vintage only, and vintage means not only that the grapes come from 1 year, but more importantly, that it's aged a minimum of 3 years on the yeast in the bottle.
Wow.
That's a big thing.
No, that is a huge thing. That, interestingly enough, has a lot of impact on the wine. I think it immediately starts the elegance process, those 3 years. And several folks have asked, where do I get this wine? And just a real quick shout out to people that have purchased on the Cellar Angels website. It's not rocket science, cellarangels.com. Many people are purchasing a sip kit, and this gets you the wines for the Friday events. So you purchase this and you'll be set for 4 to 5 weeks in advance of the wines that are going to be tasting right now on November 13th through December 11th. We put together some Thanksgiving kits that will remove any chance of failure for pairing over the holidays.
Good.
But really, it's this Blanc de Noir that is special. It was in the sip kit last 4 or 5 weeks. Now it's available on its own. As Joy said, there's none left at the winery except for 2 bottles in her refrigerator that she's going to have at 3 a.m. And I don't even know how much we have left. So if you are enjoying this, you would be intelligent, and it would behoove you to go ahead and grab some, because once it's gone, it's gone. And you can see next week we're going to have a Grenache from the Lampurity folks over on Mount Veeder. So I love that you have a cuvee for basically any whim that Joy has, which is awesome that you get that creative license. But you also work with your brother, and the two of you are lockstep in the in the pursuit of perfection, which obviously I don't think you can ever attain perfection, but boy, the journey is certainly worthwhile. So tell me about the family dynamic and you two working together in the vineyards and what you do to arrive at such elegant wines every single year.
Well, first of all, this is not just a business, it's our home. So we all live here. We have 3 generations living here from, my mother is 89, and she lives at the heart of the property in that original Victorian I was describing that was listing when they first got here. And I'm the gatekeeper. You can't see my house behind you, Martin, but it's kind of in that direction. You go right by my house when you come to the winery. And then my brother and sister-in-law and their children live in the far opposite corner. So we have this little Walton thing going on here that is remarkable. And we just interact all the time, and we just think we're hilarious. We can just make ourselves laugh by just saying, well, do you remember the day that, So, of course, we live in Sebastopol, so it's a good thing we're not too hard to amuse. But I think most of all, you've mentioned our wine gratitude. I think that we really know how lucky we are. And it's a long time ago, I wrestled down to the ground whether I deserve it or not. It's like, well, what can I do? But at least I can tell you, I recognize and appreciate how incredibly lucky we are. And we just want to do everything that we can to make it all last. I guess that's the main thing. I think that, I personally am committed for the first 100 years, and that's not too bad, actually. We're already at 45, number one, and I have a great grandnephew now who is 4.5 months old. So, he can take over that.
He'll be in the vineyard soon. He'll be in the vineyard very shortly.
Really, right after Harvard.
Exactly. Well, I think it's interesting too that, going back to the historical aspect of Rodney Strong helping, in the planting, and it was 110 acres of, not a well cared for vineyard, and then ripping all that out and planting, and then recognizing.
Oh, no, we did not rip it out. We did not rip it out. No, we rehabilitated it. No, we did not rip it out. It was, okay. We have replanted it since. We replanted almost all of the original vineyards, but that wasn't until, 2005, 6, 7, somewhere in there. And that's what Lawrence did. The biggest thing that we did besides rehabilitating the vineyard, giving it what happened is that Rodney, in the recession of 76, did not exercise his option on the property. So it had reverted to its a consortium of doctors and dentists who didn't have a tax write-off. Anyway, it just fell into lack of care. And my parents were the white knights who came in and saved it from sure and certain development. And the first thing they did was put in a frost protection system. Because we're so far west and prone to frost. And as Californians, they know, if you don't have water, you can't. So again, it's that vision.
Right. I mean, not only the vision, but also they put in a reservoir, they put in the frost protection. And Green Valley is is the coldest AVA there is. So that was a very fortuitous strategy, decision-making. But I also think it's kind of serendipity that the vineyard became available when it did. They had they were going to buy something in France and that fell through. And then they come to California and this all materializes for them. That's something to be grateful for in and of itself.
Totally. Yeah. The story is that they were at a dinner party in Los Angeles, and my mother was sitting next to a gentleman who's, when she said that they were looking for property, they'd been looking in France and now we're looking in California. He said, well, I know a vineyard that's for sale, but do you want to go see it? And she said he fell over in his chair when she said, yeah, tomorrow.
And they were in Los Angeles at the time?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. If I know you've had, I cannot remember the gentleman's name, the new winemaker.
So
That is, yes, that is usually a tumultuous, might be strong, but that's usually a very challenging process and transition because of tenure of one individual and then a new person coming in. And how has that influenced the wines? What was that process like? Walk me through the whole winemaker journey for the winery.
Well, first of all, David Monksgaard has been our winemaker. Shoot, I'm trying to think. I think it was, it's been a long time. Like,
Yep.
I forget how many years, but a lot. And he is now winemaker emeritus as of October 2nd of this year. And so he is still here in a Yoda mode.
in a zen like mystique.
Right.
Yep.
Stir lees, you will.
Yes. I like it.
And Sofian Imur joined us in March, and he is just got so much energy, and so it's exciting to have brand new eyes looking at everything. I can't tell you how it will affect the winemaking yet. Time will tell us that. I mean, I'm not even sure you could look at the 2020 vintage and say that's it. We'll have to wait till he's solo for a while. You know, that's
Right.
the beauty of this, is that it's a long time in coming. But his background is very interesting. His family owned Cuvee in New Mexico.
Oh,
Yeah.
That is a perennial top 15 sparkling wine in the country, top 100 wine of all wine. It's usually in the top 10 or 15 every single year.
And so he knows a thing or two. And
Yes.
so that's very exciting. You know, this is a perfect match, I think. I think we're a dream job for him, and he's a dream person for us.
Well, I mean, it's fantastic the way that has worked out. And I have seen some of the videos with him, extremely fun and educational. And you're right, he does have a lot of energy. And I have an unfair question from an individual in the chat that is challenging, because let's say there is a natural disaster that hits California, that those are so rare, we have to kind of imagine it. And you had to run out of your winery or your home, and you could only grab one case of wine of yours. Which case would you grab?
Easy. Well, starting next week, I would definitely grab the new Disgorging of Joy. The only problem with that is that only comes in Magnum, and that's just not as necessarily a serving size appropriate when you're fleeing.
I like that, serving size appropriate. It's a measurement of which I'm unfamiliar. That is
you never
great.
know. You know, one of the other things, though, you know, you could use it, you know, as barter. You know, let me across the border and I'll give you a Magnum of Joy.
And you have a new Cuvee coming out named after someone special.
A new Chardonnay coming out called
Oh.
Audrey.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my mother, is Audrey. Yeah, and this will be a wine. This is a 2019 Chardonnay. It's a blend of 2 clones off of the estate. It's very elegant, just like she is, and very gracious. It's a gracious wine, just like she is.
That's an apt description. I'm looking forward to trying that wine. I do want to throw up one more question, because people are a little bit dissatisfied that they got the first one wrong.
Oh, that I'm not in biotech?
Yeah, you're not in biotech. So
An
now,
astronaut. I wanted to be an astronaut.
I think we all did. Oh, by the way, 1976, also when they bought the property, Space Shuttle Enterprise, first time it was ever launched. So no, this is, I think, an interesting tidbit. The decision to produce sparkling wine was because no one was buying Pinot Noir at the time. The Judgment of Paris wine tasting, descendants of Madame Clicquot visited and said, make champagne.
That I'm going to be very impressed.
No cheating, people. I can see you already on the smartphones. We've got we upgraded the Zoom. It's two-way now. We can actually see you. Okay, we're going to give this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So no one was buying Pinot Noir, ekes out a victory over Judgment of Paris with 2 people anxiously holding their winning ticket slips for descendants of Madame Clicquot visited. Care to divulge the real answer?
Well, it's one and almost 3.
Almost 3.
Almost 3. Because yes, they were friends of ours from France. I don't know that they were descendants of Madame Clicquot, but they owned a champagne house in France, Lançon. And the other company they had was Danone yogurt. And they
Yes.
came to visit us, and I just don't think they were descendants of Clicquot, but they came and had a picnic with us and tasted a Vin Gris that we had made. And they said, oh, this is the base wine for champagne. You need to make champagne. Come to Champagne, we'll show you how to do it. But it was also true. It was also true that in the 1970s and early 80s, California Pinot Noir, Sonoma Pinot Noir, oh my God, if it wasn't Burgundy in those days, it was a nightmare. And then Oregon comes along like in the 80s and steals the thunder. And that was our big wake up call in Sonoma County. It was like, well, shoot, we're not, it's one thing if it's Burgundy, but we're certainly not going to let Oregon eat us.
Exactly.
It was like, oh my God, we got to get going. And part of we just had we had a bad, well, first of all, Cabernet was king or Zinfandel, but Pinot Noir was just, and so much of it in those days was not planted in the right areas. It was planted in places that were too warm. And so
right.
The overall quality was not that great. So yeah, so it was 1 and part of 3.
I think it's fascinating that you're right. I mean, you look at it from an economic standpoint early on in the 70s, Pinot Noir was not selling. It was a very, 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 very difficult sell. And I did, the Oregon thing is new to me. I did not know that was also one of the things that caused the Sonoma County region folks to say, hey, okay, we need to up our game here because this is not going well.
This is not right. This is not right. If they can do it, we can do it. Yeah. So
I love a couple of the things I heard tonight where you're celebrating your 45th anniversary and you said we're nowhere close to being done and you're looking for 100. You also mentioned that you're all estate. Every year, it's, depending on the vintage, 25,000 to 30,000 cases. It's not like you can go up to 70,000. But in addition to never having met a Cuvee you didn't love, what is kind of future vision for the Sterling and Joy and Iron Horse?
It's we just continue to grow in quality. That's it. We grow in quality. We don't grow in size. We grow in quality. And I mean, it takes as long to sell an expensive case of wine as it does to sell an inexpensive case of wine. So I say, let's sell expensive wine. And I just think, that's just the way my business mind works. So I would rather keep it small, keep our arms around it and get it better. And you know, history is on our side. If you, not so much in Champagne, because there it's all volume and they do everything that they can to have you not know how much they produce.
Right.
But
Yep.
but in it certainly in you know, in Pinot Noirs around the world and other wines, I would say that the limited production, fabulous, really distinctive, special. I think that that's exciting if you're just continually pushing that envelope of what you can do in terms of quality and not worry about the quantity.
And what would 2020 Joy tell 1986 Joy about life lessons in the wine industry?
Oh boy. It'll be fine. Don't worry, it'll be fine.
You know, it's interesting. I love the phrase wisdom or experience is what you get when you didn't get what you expected. So
Well,
very,
you know, I think that I think the big thing you know, first of all, we're all living in a world of total unexpected. And so you can't you know, there's no predicting anymore at anything. I mean, the wine business, how we go to market is so upended right now. It's it's just so there's nothing that you could have looked at in 1986 and said, oh, this will lead us right where we need to go. I mean, we don't know where we need to go.
well, and I think it's sage advice for any industry, for any individual to what you just said. It's like, it'll be fine. Just, it's all going to work itself out. Don't get bent over, you know, bent into a pretzel over it. You're going to do yourself more harm than good. So that's a good life lesson in and of itself. And I love some of the placements you do have. We talked about National Geographic. One of my favorite restaurants in the entire world is Commander's Palace down in New Orleans. And you've had the House Cuvee there for, I don't even know how many years. So if anybody ever wants to have a glass of Iron Horse when you're in New Orleans, that would be a place to go. Denise actually has a picture that she would like to share of, I don't know what. So we're going to let her, Mission Control, take. So what do we have here?
Oh,
These are the wines from Brian Marcella and the Wolves. It shows you the color as it ages.
see, well, interesting. Well, but I would imagine not just the color is not as it's aging, but that vintage was clearly a rosé wine, and it wasn't in the subsequent vintages. So that's not an age characteristic in that wine. That's what I meant, is that we can pull a real fast one on you.
That is awesome. Brian, thank you so much for sharing. And the Wolves are in your wine club, Joy.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for that. Let me just say that I think the wine club is about the most special group of people imaginable. It's like extended family for us. And I write all the letters that go on the boxes. And so I really think about it. One thing, though, I will say that's a little tricky is that I get to write those letters several weeks before they get packed. So I have to, so this time, for example, the wine shipment is going out, I think it's November 9th is when we start shipping it. And so I had to write it as though the election had happened.
Ooh, wait, that's right. There's an election coming up, isn't there? I did hear about that.
Election Cuvee.
So you're telling me you're coming out with an election cuvee?
What we're coming out with is this I'm excited about. December 1st, we have a new cuvee, yet another new cuvee called Resilience, which is going to be our New Year's Eve when we say goodbye to 2020. It will be with a toast with resilience, and resilience benefits something called the Sonoma County Resilience Fund, which has been in existence since 2017 when those fires were taking place. The gratitude, which is available now, you referenced that a couple of times, that benefits the food bank. And the National Geographic Ocean Reserve benefits the ocean. We take care of the ocean. $4 a bottle goes to help establish marine protected areas and support sustainable fishing around the globe. So we follow in the path of the Cellar Angels. We try.
Well, no, I was going to say it's a perfect segue to what we started at the top of the hour with. You make something that matters. And not only are you making something that matters in an unbelievable sparkling wine, but you're doing good with it. And there is something special about the place. There's something special about the wine, but more importantly, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, there is something special about the people. So Joy, I want to thank you so much for this evening.
Thank you.
The studio is telling me we have to take a break, but we are going to be here next week because if it's Friday night, it must be SIP. So everyone stay safe. Couldn't have done this without Mission Control. We can't do it without all of you, our supporters. So everyone be good to one another. Thank Joy, gratitude, Harvest Moon, resilience. I love the name of that wine. I will be getting some, and we'll see you next Friday. Everyone be good. Cheers, Joy.
Be safe, everybody. Cheers.